With our guest Rohit Srivastava, who joins us this morning. Rohit, good morning. Pleasure having you back. I don't want to once again start with the IT stocks. I think we've spoken enough about the IT stocks, so we will eventually come to those. But I really want to understand from you first up the news triggers, and one coming especially from the 126% tariff on India's solar exports to the US. How much of a dent is that? Because I was reading India's total solar panel exports are in the region of about $700 to $800 million. Doesn't seem like a high volume export, but bad headline, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, it surely spoils the sentiment and leaves you with uncertainty as to what may show up in different parts of the market over time. And yeah, it's not good news. Like you said, it's a sentimental impact more than anything else.
Beyond that, what do you make overall of the market mood, keeping, the 126% aside, Rohit? It's been a volatile trading session yesterday. Despite that 10% tariff instead of 15% being imposed, we haven't seen the kind of momentum that we potentially could have seen as far as the headline Sensex and Nifty go. So what is the sentiment right now? What is the mood right now? Can you pinpoint exactly what investors are fearing?
So sometimes you can't discount the same news twice. For example, when we got the trade deal, we got a 1200, 1300 gap up opening, which is a huge move that we saw overnight in the Nifty. Now we've gyrated from there back and forth, but the net rate is still coming to around 15%, and it could still add up to 16, 17%. So in the end, it's not very, very different. And I think Trump has made it very, very clear that it's, don't expect it different, and you need to honor the deals as we have already agreed upon.
Right.
And so one way or the other, it's actually status quo. So then we end up looking at what has the market really done since the 4th of February when the trade deal was announced,
Right.
or 3rd of February. And since then, we've actually seen a series of lower lows and lower highs. Each time the market's bounced, it's bounced to a lower high. Then it's broken that previous low, and that pattern has sort of gone on. So I would say that we are in a near-term downtrend because that's what a lower low, lower high pattern would tell us. We need to estimate how much. I think at the minimum, I'm seeing a retest of 25,000 in the short term.
Okay.
The resistance being around 25,650. So there is more downside to upside in the short term unless we really break this pattern of lower lows and lower highs.
Right. And as you're speaking, there's also some correction, downward correction, because markets are pretty much back to yesterday's closing levels, Rohit. So it seems that there are going to be, like you mentioned, lower lows and lower highs. And that sort of, is the sentiment being reflected even on the charts right now. But some other news triggers I want to discuss with you, especially the one coming from the US. Nvidia's handsome result, $68.1 billion in top line. Pretty much shunning away AI fears. Is this something that we can now say that, okay, maybe 2026 is not the year of an AI bubble, and that bubble, even if it is one, is unlikely to burst in the near future? So AI fears really getting out of the way as far as at least one trigger, which is Nvidia results, go?
Hard to say. Nvidia stock made a high of around $212 right now. Yesterday, it's closed at 195.
Yeah.
It's been in this range, between 195 and 170 for almost 2 to 3 months. And probably the bullish case would be to break out of this range. So we are still, I would say, inside that range. We haven't clearly broken out despite the results. And what the market would really try to understand is how does this all move going forward. Remember, Nvidia has some of the high powered chips, but they also the most highly priced chips because there was no competition in the market. And the real question is, how long would it remain like that? Somewhere moment you start having pricing pressures is where I think the valuations really start cutting back. Now that doesn't mean the AI trade is coming to an end or something like that, but it has put pressure on various parts of the market as we've seen recently. Not just the IT software services, they've been falling since October, even in the US.
Right.
But I think it's also starting to show in platform companies. Even if you look at what's happening to say Salesforce in the US,
Right.
and then you extrapolate that to companies in India, everything from Zomato, Swiggy, uh, uh, Paytm, all of them have actually been weakening recently. And
Right.
I think there is a spillover effect to platform companies right now, wondering whether the AI trade would sort of start hitting them as well.
All right. Okay. So, of course, these companies that you mentioned, especially the startups, Zomato, Swiggy, Paytm, and alike, would they also tentatively likely get impacted with India's new GDP formula, which sort of ascertains the number which is to be released on Friday? Because we saw in the inflation count last month, a new sort of baseline correction took place. And now on Friday, as the GDP data also comes out, are these stocks or even the larger FMCG stocks likely to get impacted with what the data reveals?
Well, the data is very much macro. I mean, sector like FMCG is usually considered defensive. Defensive meaning that you expect people to continue to consume food and medicine even in a difficult market environment, and that is why people look to them. But FMCG over the last 12 months has been one of the worst performing sectors. It's been more because of a valuation correction. I think once the valuation correction is complete, then definitely you will get the value buyers into defensive again as the market generally tends to weaken. So that would happen. The GDP numbers, I think, the main thing that has kept GDP numbers up and, the difference between nominal and real GDP is the real thing here when you're talking about the new data, and the new inflation data is already out.
That's right.
And what happened is we ended up with nominal GDP of 9% last year. We are hoping that next year we'll cross 10%. According to me, 9 to 10% is not great when you actually think of earnings growth.
Okay.
Historically, India has seen somewhere closer to 14-15% nominal, which has then helped us deliver 15-20%
But
earnings growth
Rohit,
for
that
the
nominal
company.
of 14-15% also coming on the back of high inflation, but a nominal of 9% coming on the back of low inflation, does it really, create too much of a dent?
Yeah, inflation plays an important role when you think of earnings growth. So that is the main point.
Right.
With our inflation having dropped off to single digits and interest rates not being cut
Yeah.
aggressively,
Yeah.
it's not really stimulated the business environment sufficiently to get that trigger. So we are hoping that happens. I think the hope is really that there'll be more rate cuts this year,
Okay.
and you will get the momentum back in terms of price inflation and growth.
Okay.
But till that happens, it's hard to project. If you're only talking about 10% nominal GDP growth, then can we really talk about 20% earnings growth? That's the real
Absolutely.
question.
Absolutely. Okay, and final question to you. This sort of, news coming from the Tata Group. Tata Trusts seem to be divided once again over N. Chandra's reappointment, despite reports also suggesting that the group has seen, Tata Sons has seen tremendous growth and profitability under N. Chandra. Is this a news item which is likely to impact in the short term or the medium term any of the Tata company stocks?
I doubt it. I mean, it's been a large conglomerate. They've had a lot of changes before, and the way it is organized, I think they are one of the conglomerates which has shown success by being able to manage businesses across sectors. That's very difficult. There are many other companies in the past that have tried this through the 90s and 2000s and failed. And therefore, these kind of changes are just part and parcel. There's always going to be a change at the helm, but that doesn't mean that, the group as a whole faces a major headwind. So I think business management has been one of their strong points. So it shouldn't really be a significant event.
All right, Rohit Srivastava, let's leave it at that this morning. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us here on News 9.